Since I'm the president here, I'm always proud to represent the Nazareth homes. I've been here for 20-something years. We've been on this campus, as you know, since 1976. We moved into our Clifton campus at 2120 Payne in 2016. And we're really honored and proud to do what this community calls us to do, what we're allowed to do, and we hold all that very dear. Couple of updates this year. We were pleased yet again, U.S. News and World Report. They analyzed all the CMS data for skilled nursing, and they ranked us in the top 10% of skilled nursing centers across America. Right behind that, Newsweek got on board. They've never done this before. They did the same thing, and they rated us among the top 9% in the United States. For the last couple of years, we've thrown our hat in the ring for best workplaces in Louisville Metro, and we've achieved that. We do that because we hold dear maintaining the public trust. And we believe if we can show those kinds of scorecards, that will help people get past some of the things that we know you have to get past to even walk in those front doors, and certainly to move in. It's not anything that anybody wants in their life. We're aware of that, and that's why we do our dead level best to take it seriously and to do it well and to do it with your feedback. So thank you for being here this afternoon. We do want to deliver to you topics that you're interested in. As you might expect, many people call us all the time for advice or care. We pay attention to that, and because of that, we've started 2 new programs this year. One of those is to expand some space that we have in our Clifton campus, 2120 Payne. We have 12 independent living apartments that we are opening this year. We'll have an open house there on the 29th of January. Would love to show you those for someone that you might know that might be interested in living on a continuing care retirement campus. The other program that we've started is our Nazareth at Home. We have a table out front if you'd want to talk with Anna Runderman, who is leading that program right now. But it's something that we toyed with starting right about the time that COVID happened, because we know so many people, you want to be at home. You want to still be driving your own bus, and we want to help you do that. So if you're interested in talking about that, we'd love to talk with you more. So thanks for coming out on this cold afternoon. Dr. Jane is like, well, you think we should cancel? You know, nobody's going to come. Well, look at Dr. Jane always has a crowd. And she has a crowd because what she has to convey not only is so valuable, but it's so common sense. So Dr. Jane has been involved in delivering education to physicians. She delivers spiritual direction to the vowed religious. She has invented things for senior care. So she's genius, she's an expert. We love that she is going to spend this time with us. And so she's going to talk about all the things that we want to know more about, which is how to stay up, going, thriving, and living life to its fullest. So I welcome you, Dr. Jane. You can give her a round of applause if you'd like.
And one of the reasons why I thought not many people might come is that I hate the cold. And so I was thinking, maybe she'll cancel it. I'm delighted to be here. And this is actually one of my very favorite places to be. So thank you for inviting me again. I'm going to start by asking you a question. What is if you were, they're all important. All of the organs in our body are important. St. Paul says that. But there's one that I think is probably the most important. What organ do you think is the most important in your body?
The brain.
The odd thing is that that hasn't always been the case. Think about all the hype that the heart gets. We focus, oh, you know, heart healthy diet, a heart healthy whatever. You know, you look at the nightly news, and there are all kinds of medicines for, you know, the heart and for psoriasis and for whatever, but mostly, you know, heart stuff and diabetes and so forth. And I'm not taking away from that, but it's only been relatively recently that you hear much about the brain and brain health. And unfortunately, one of the things that shows up on the advertisement is for Prevagen, the, you know, vitamins and all of the things that you're supposed to be able to take to enhance brain function and so forth. And none of those have been researched. And so, you know, there's caution to be held for the use of, you know, of any of those special things. So, what I'm going to focus on today is on an update on brain health. This is the third year I've given this talk, so some of you may say, oh, I've heard this before. Yeah, you have, and if you're like me, you need to hear it more than once. But also, there are updates on this, and I'm not just focusing on memory and enhancement of memory, but I'm focusing on the whole spectrum of brain health, keeping that organ well, just as it keeps your heart well. And interestingly, they found in relatively recent research the brain-gut interaction, and basically some people are calling the intestines the second brain. So I'm not going to go into that because I don't know that research well, but I think it's really very important that we focus on brain health. And the bottom line is the earlier we start dealing with, working with, paying attention to our brain health, the earlier in the lifespan, the better. So if you have grandchildren, okay, think about what I'm saying in terms of kids. Think about the 20s and the 30s and so forth. So, but particularly the 50s are the times when you really need to be making some, you know, changes in lifestyle if you haven't already. So, you have your handouts. Do you all have the handout packet? Okay. One of the things that I will say is that we were going to put up one of the pages of your packet on screen, but that equipment isn't working, so we'll just sort of, you know, bear with me with it. We'll update on brain health, the common age-related changes. Basically, this is normal, okay? This is within the normal realms. It's a slightly more time to learn something new, and a slightly more need to be intentional about what you're learning that's new. You know, when we were quite young, we could just sort of observe something and it was in our head. We didn't have to think, okay, I need to remember this, or I need to put down my phone and this is where I'm putting it, okay? We could take a lot of that for granted. There's also, it takes more time to recall memories, especially names and words, but especially last names. And one of the reasons why it's harder to bring forth, remember, last names is that most of the time they don't have any semantic meaning. They don't have a meaning. So my last name is Thibault. What's a Thibault? You know? if you have a last name like Smith, well, you can put a picture with a Smithy, or, you can put a picture with that. But most last names don't have a picture that you can make with it. And so if you can't visualize the name, then it's a little bit harder to remember, and you have to use some memory devices that we'll talk about later. Our memories are much more adversely affected by distraction. I used to be able to attend to two things at once. Okay? Now I can be watching TV, and my husband can be saying something to me in the chair side by side, and I can't pay attention to the two of them at the same time. And so I have to then decide which one I want to pay attention to. It's not always the right one. And another thing that changes is that there seems to be, in some people, not all, a flattening or lessening of intensity of feelings. We don't get quite as wild up or intensely involved in something. And what they've found is that it's easier to remember things that have a feeling state to it. So if our feelings are quite as intense as they used to be about things, then we're not storing the memory in the hippocampus area of the brain. The hippocampus area of the brain is where we put new stuff, and then it translates that into long-term memories. The frequent causes of abnormal mood and memory function, and let's not forget that the brain doesn't just control memory, but it also is involved in mood. Frequent causes are physical and social inactivity, poor nutrition, medications of various kinds, both over-the-counter and prescribed, infections of all kinds, diseases, especially diabetes and hypertension, alcohol, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, sleep pattern disturbances, inadequate sleep, limited sight and hearing, anxiety, worry, and grief, and dementing diseases. And Alzheimer's is the most common of the diseases that actually interfere with brain function. The symptoms of brain health impairment are basically delirium, dementia, and depression. And any changes, whether they're sudden or over the course of time, in personality, in behavior, in skills, in knowing where you are in space and time, which is orientation, in thinking, in daily functioning, in driving, in memory, in mood, that interfere significantly with the person's ability to do what he or she needs to do to live as an independent adult, is of concern. Okay? So we're going to talk about monitoring ourselves shortly, but the main monitor is what changes do you notice in yourself? What changes do you notice in other people, whether it's your partner or a relative or a good friend? The key word is change. The key word is change. And this can be so gradual that you don't even notice it yourself, but other people do. Okay? And especially people who don't see us on a regular basis. So when I ran the geriatric clinic at U of L, the evaluation unit, we would talk about the proverbial relative who comes in, or son or daughter who comes in from California and visits mom, and all of a sudden, you know, he's seeing all kinds of things wrong with mom, and that nobody even noticed because it was so gradual. So the again, the key word is change, but if the change is sudden, this may be due to most frequently either an infectious process like a urinary tract infection or a stroke. Okay? And you all know how to test for stroke, the signs for stroke, the difficulty speaking and so forth. But a lot of people don't know that a UTI, a urinary tract infection, can show up primarily and initially with confusion, changes in behavior. And the person may not even experience burning on urination and, you know, and any of the typical younger person symptoms of a urinary tract infection. But very suddenly, one can go into a change, not just in memory, but change in behavior, and can get misdiagnosed unless the person has access to care that will test for UTI. So any change in, any sudden change in behavior that is not accompanied by stroke symptoms, you need to be thinking, is this a urinary tract infection? And yourself as well. Okay. So, what I'm going to share with you,
Virginia.
there we go, is what I have found recently and am very excited about. And that is, and it would be nice if it were on the screen, but you should have a copy of the McCants Brain Care Score. This is out of Massachusetts General Hospital, McCants Center for Brain Health. And it's a way for us to assess our brain health. And I'm going to have you do this. I realize that the print is very small, and since we can't have it up on the screen, I'm going to read these and ask you to assess yourself as I'm going through these. They've divided the brain care categories into physical health, physical parameters, lifestyle, and socio-emotional. So, everybody have that?
Which one are you going to use?
This is, you can use, if you have the black and white one, use that, because what I'm hoping you will do is share the colored one with your physician. Because all of the physicians that we go to ought to have this to give to patients. But I've got lots of extra ones, so you can use it. So the first category is physical. Okay. So we should know our blood pressure, our blood sugar, our cholesterol, and our BMI. And so, for example, you may not know what your resting blood pressure is. Okay? You may not know what your hemoglobin A1C is. You may not know what your cholesterol is as we're filling this out. And so the response that I have is you need to know it. So if you can't put down a measurement for these, just sort of leave that empty. The next one is nutrition. And what is suggested is that the your daily dietary habits should include 4 to 5 servings of fruit and vegetables a day. And a serving generally is about a half a cup. 2 servings of lean protein per day, and the protein is the size of your hand. Okay, that's the typical piece of meat or fish, about the size of your hand. 3 or more servings of whole grains a day, whether that's oatmeal or cereal or whole wheat bread. Less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. That's harder to test. And less than 36 ounces of sugar, sweet beverages, soda, and juice per week. So, if you have a typical weekly diet that doesn't include at least 2 of the recommendations above daily, you get 0. The typical weekly diet, including 2 or more, you get 1. And less than typical weekly diet, including 3 or more, you get 2. Okay. So I'm going to give you turn to do this and do the ones that are physical. But I want to talk about alcohol because what they're finding is that no amount of alcohol is good for the brain. Not even the young brain, but particularly the aging brain. Because alcohol is a toxin, and some research about 20 years ago came out and said that a glass of wine, particularly red wine, every day is beneficial and therapeutic for heart health. And they don't say that anymore. They have not found that was rigorous enough research to find that was true. So it isn't. So basically they're saying, researchers saying that the commonly thought 2 drinks a day for males and 1 for females, they were recommending that. Now they're recommending none. Okay, so the more that you can get down to none. And this really disturbed me because during COVID, I used to be a wine drinker, but during COVID, when the governor came on at 5 o'clock to give his update, we would go for the bourbon, and I'd have a bourbon and 7-Up, and I developed a taste for bourbon. And of course, Kentucky, and we had the bourbon trail, so I felt like I was being very patriotic, and very civic, and all of that sort of thing. So we started having cocktails with the gov at 5 o'clock. And then when he changed it to 4, we recorded it. So we could have it at 5 because we wouldn't drink before. Crazy. And then we decided that if we became alcoholics because of this, then we would go into rehab and we would send the bill to Governor Shore. Anyway, but I do miss having a daily bourbon drink. What I have switched to talk to my doctor about it, and she said, well, there are a lot of non-alcoholic alcohols. There's a non-alcoholic beer. She said, when I was pregnant, I had non-alcoholic wine. And so I went to the liquor store and I found that there's even a non-alcoholic bourbon. So I bought all 3. I liked the beer. Heineken has now come out with 0.0. My favorite is a Klaus Tauber. I really like that. That's the beer. The wine, The bourbon, awful. Awful. I couldn't even give it away. So anyway, you need to make your own mind, obviously, about that, but do know that, whatever you decide, you might want to keep it as a treat. Now, I've kept it as a treat, but now I feel so guilty that I don't enjoy it anymore. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. Smoking, aerobic exercises, sleep. Sleep is one area that is extremely important for brain care, as well as exercise and smoking cessation, of course. Another thing under socio and emotional is stress. I came across a research article way back in the mid-'80s. Researcher at Northern Florida University found that chronic stress kills the cells in the hippocampus section of the brain over time. And as I mentioned earlier, the hippocampus is the part of the brain that is responsible for forming new memories. What you want to remember, it hits those cells in the hippocampus first, and then it goes to various and sundry other parts of the brain. So if those cells in the hippocampus are being killed, then you're not being able to form new memories. So this may explain, if you ever had the experience of being really, really stressed, and you forget this, and you forget this, and you misplace this and that, well, there's a reason for it. It's not just, there's a physiological reason for it, basically.
You said those cells are killed. Do new ones grow?
No, they don't. At least from the research done now, they don't think they do. Okay, so we're constantly finding stuff about neurogenesis, the replenishment of cells. Right now, I should say they don't know whether they do or not. Okay, but that's a good question. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to fill this out, okay, and see whether you have any questions related to this, and don't agonize over your responses. Just put down what you think at this point. Do you get exercise? One of the most significant areas of brain care is exercise, right? And sleep, relationships, social relationships, and meaning in life.
Are there any sleep aids that work?
Some people suggest magnesium. And a number of people that I know, and on their doctor's recommendation. And a 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium. But I'm not going to, I'm putting it, some people say, okay? I am not recommending anything. But I'm saying that that is better than using melatonin would be okay too. But it doesn't work with a lot of folks. But anything that is over the counter that has, like NyQuil, those chemicals are not, there's my handout here, are not healthy. Any of the over-the-counter nighttime sleep medications that are being sold specifically for sleep, other than melatonin. Benadryl, that's where my handouts for myself. Benadryl, absolutely not. Absolutely over time can permanently injure your brain cells. Any kind of, and a lot of those, you know, those NyQuil things have been permanent.
Just more specifically, it says treated sleep disturbances. What do you mean by treated sleep disturbances?
A lot of the sleep disturbances are caused by sleep apnea, and if you snore a lot and you're not getting the kind of, if you snore a lot, you're probably not getting the quality of sleep that you need, and as a result, you really need to go to a sleep, have a sleep study done, and you may need to either get a CPAP or have the surgery that will you know, help with that.
I think it's just that people of a certain age often have sleep issues.
Yes,
And if it's not the physical, like the,
yeah, the CPAP.
I just wondered why you said treated.
And when I say treated, you tell your doctor about it, and your doctor recommends, okay? And the for example, most of the physicians that I know in geriatrics that I work with, and have worked with, recommend now the magnesium. Another that they recommend is trazodone, which is an old-fashioned antidepressant. And it's given very frequently to people in nursing homes. And do you take it for sleep? Does it work?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So trazodone, T-R-A-Z-E-D-O-N-E. Yes.
Could you repeat the questions that are coming?
Oh, sure. Okay. I will. The question was, what does it mean when it says sleep, untreated sleep disorder, or treated sleep disturbances in 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night? So what does it mean by treated sleep disorder or difficulty? Yes.
Would you spell that? Trazodone.
T-R-A-Z-E-D-O-N-E. Now, what your doctor, if your doctor is not a geriatrician or doesn't take care of too many older adults or doesn't have any older adults in a nursing home, your doctor may say, that's an old antidepressant. You don't need an antidepressant, you know. The geriatricians generally know to use trazodone, so you might want to, you know, kind of haggle with that. Okay. So, one of the recommendations under the brain care score is the nutrition. Okay? And one of the recommendations now is the use of the MIND diet. Okay? M-I-N-D. The MIND diet is designated to reduce the risk of dementia and loss of brain function as you age. Are you all familiar with the Mediterranean diet, okay, for diabetes and so forth? The MIND diet combines the Mediterranean diet for diabetes and the DASH diet for hypertension into one kind of diet. So, it stands for Mediterranean dash intervention for neurodegenerative delay. What they're teaching is that the earlier you can start eating this way, the better. Okay? And by earlier, we're talking people in their 20s, but particularly if you haven't, you know, if you're still drinking and eating Doritos in your 50s, it's time to really get serious about what you eat. And so, 10 foods to eat on the MIND diet are green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables. What I have found at Kroger, in the salad section, you know, the ready prepared greens, they have a combination of green vegetables called power greens. And it includes spinach, chard, and kale, yes. And so we try to have a salad of those every night. And I tried steaming them, and you can steam them. And they make a really nice, instead of just spinach or just kale or chard, makes a nice combination. And it's an easy way to eat greens, either in a salad or, or cooked. The other vegetables include squashes that are really, really high in color. Acorn squashes, butternut squashes, and anything with color, okay? Fruits that are high in color, all of your berries that are intense in color, all of your veggies that are intense in color. So if you like potatoes, have a sweet potato or a yam or something like that. Has anybody experimented with eating like this, and can you attest to any changes, Mary?
Black grapes. Black
Black-
grapes are so nourishing. They give energy, they help brain function.
Yes, black grapes, okay, or Concord grapes, some of those,
Yeah.
the grapes that have a really, really dark skin. And it's actually because of that dark skin that red wine was recommended for heart, care. So that's a good one. Berries. Eat berries at least twice a week. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, all have antioxidant benefits. Nuts. Okay. Those should be part of your diet. Olive oil. One of the things that I've I do regularly, is I'll get broccoli and cauliflower and all carrots and all kinds of vegetables. Put them on a pan, drizzle them with olive oil, and roast them. And that's the way I like to eat vegetables these days. I used to just steam them and then put cheese and butter and all that sort of thing on it and make them unhealthy. So the olive oil is healthy. The roasting of the vegetables makes it palatable. You don't need to put salt on it. So, if you like nuts and the nuts come with salt, rinse them off. Rinse them off. What were you going to ask?
I just recently read that your brain is, the largest part of your brain is fat,
Yes.
and that you need fat. And all this time they've been telling us not to eat red meat, not to eat butter,
Yep.
not to eat whole milk.
Yep. This is really interesting. Okay, the question was, or the comment was, the brain is mostly fat. A good percentage of the brain is actually fat. And it needs fat. And one of the things, fascinating stuff about this, they used to give babies skim milk and found that their brains really were not developing as they should. And they've gone back to, if they're not drinking breast milk, which is full of fat, apparently, they're giving babies whole milk. But the other thing that I was going to say about the fat, yes, women and girls who are anorexic and won't eat a morsel or an ounce or a milligram of fat tend to get depressed. And they're thinking that it's because they do not have fat in their diet, that the fat that the brain needs. So it's not just for memory and learning and so forth, it's actually for mood as well. So the best kind of fat is olive oil. The best kind of fat is olive oil. Butter is still highly saturated in avocados, yes, avocados. Any other source of fat that you've come across that works? Pardon? Salmon, yes, all the fatty fishes, salmon, mackerel, dark meat tuna. Okay. Whole grains, fish, beans, we talked about that. Under wine, it says aim for no more than 1 glass. Now they say, the wine people say red and white wine may benefit your brain, but the latest research says no. So strike that off the list. And 5 foods to avoid on this mind diet are, again, butter and margarine. And this one breaks my heart, cheese. Recommends eating cheese less than once a week. And that's going to be really, that's a really hard one. Red meat, we know. Fried fruit, we know. Pastries and sweets, we know. But the cheese, I think, is probably a sadness.
As we get older, don't we need red meat for our muscles?
We need protein for our muscles. We don't need red meat for our muscles. We can get the protein that we need from fish and chicken. And beans. And beans. But we don't need, what we used to eat red meat for, and liver, was for our hemoglobin and keeping up our red blood cells. So there's a question as to how much, and particularly women don't need as much iron after menopause as we did, while we were still having our periods. So after menopause, we don't need as much iron. But this is a topic for your conversation with your doctor, and this is why I really, really recommend that you take this to your doctor. Now, all of us, I think, are we all over 60? No, we're not all over 65. Well, with 65, you get the Medicare yearly wellness check, and our doctor gives us a mental status test, okay? And so this is a good time to say, okay, I may have passed it this year, I may not next year, so I really want to take care of my brain. And this is what I want you to go over with me. I need to know what my blood sugar is, what my A1 is, and so forth, so I can keep track of it. BMI, basal metabolism, body mass index. There's some question as to whether body mass index is a good measurement anymore. So they're not taking as much care about that one. The other, we talked about nutrition and alcohol, smoking, aerobic exercise. Probably, if you're going to do one change, exercise would be it. Okay? Because a lot of these changes we need to make. But if you put on the block and somebody said, okay, yeah, one thing that you can change is to include more aerobic exercises. And one of the people here to attest to that is Ann Piper, and sitting next to her is Mary
Gatton, G-A-T-T only.
I was going to call you Tierney. Okay, there's a Mary Tierney in the group too. What I'm talking about is the Parkinson's exercise program. My husband has Parkinson's, and he found the Parkinson's exercise program that Doug and Ann Piper started. It was originally a ministry out of St. John Paul, wasn't it? It still is?
Francis Center.
The Francis
Where we
Center.
had housed it.
Okay, and but it's now housed at the Buchel Baptist Church. They meet in person on Monday and Wednesday and on Zoom on Friday, but it's also on Zoom Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is the best workout for everybody, not just, you don't have to have Parkinson's in order to engage with the exercises that is done. I do the 3-day a week exercises. But what they've found with the Parkinson's is that the cross-body, cross-brain exercising is what activates both sides, both hemispheres of the brain. And actually, the research on this exercise, TKO, boxing, without hitting a partner, they do have exercise equipment, actually slows down the progress of Parkinson's. I've seen it in Ron, and you've seen it in many other people, including Doug. So my thought is, if it's good for a Parkinson's patient's brain, then it's good for my brain. Okay? I had chemo for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma 12 years ago that did some damage to my brain, and particularly in the area of word retrieval and so forth. And I can tell the difference in function by for the time of the 2 years that we've been with the Parkinson's program. So Anne is here, and her cards are here, and she will talk to you if you want. When you talk to you.
It's free.
Oh, and it's free, yes. And it's an hour and a half. You have an hour of cross-body exercising, balance exercising, and strength training. And the third half hour is actually work with the boxing equipment. Okay, what do you call these things? Punching bags and also the heavy ropes that you use. It's all kinds of equipment that volunteers who go there set out and take away. So there's a whole group of volunteers who don't have Parkinson's who help out at this for this program. It's an hour and a half workout, 3 days a week. What time? 9:30 to 11. 9:30 to 10:30 is the strength training and the stamina, strength and balance training, and they're also cross-body with those exercises too. But the last half hour with the equipment includes drumming on big balls, doing the drumming, and the punching bag, and what are some of the other, I haven't paid too much attention to the boxing, because balance, balance, yeah. So, recommend it, and if you don't have Parkinson's, switch on to, they can come, can't they?
Oh, sure, I would love it, because the social part of it is.
That's the thing, yes. It's become a community. It's become a community, and it's people helping one another, people being concerned, people laughing, together, and it's just a really it's a fun time. And the person who is the exercise director is Bob Kane. Some of you may recognize him from various parishes you've been in or whatever, but he's hilarious, but he's serious. And he will go out, and if you want him to come to your house to do an assessment of your readiness to come into an exercise program, or if you want to learn how to do these exercises in a chair because you can't, do them as vigorously, standing up because you have balance problems and so forth, or you're in a wheelchair, he will do that. But the Pipers have been the folks who are the instigators and the backbone, I shouldn't say instigators, the creators, the founders, yeah, that's a good one. St. Piper's founders of the, anyway, so I recommend that to everybody, really. But if you don't want to go in person, get on the Zoom, and we can give you the Zoom link for it. And it's a really good workout at home. The social relationships are critical, and in this group you do get the social relationships, but one of the things they found since COVID is that older adults are really suffering from loneliness. And the loneliness has deleterious effects on health. So it's our engagement with one another. And actually, one of the things that helps brain-wise is having a conversation. And it doesn't have to be an agreeable conversation. Even an argument is stimulating to the brain. So, that said, I'm not going to say any more. Okay. Alright. Hand out here. Okay, then. Oops, don't have my packet. Here's my packet. Can I borrow somebody's packet for just a minute? Okay, thank you. I'll give it back to you. Okay. All right. Basically on the brain care score, the higher you score, the better. Okay. And what did I miss? Okay. Research-based guidelines for brain health. I want to talk about guidelines. Some of these will be repetitive from the Pain Score questionnaire, but it's this handout that says research-based guidelines for brain health maintenance. Basically, what's good for your heart is good for your brain. So, eat brain healthy foods. We've talked about that. But we didn't talk about avoiding sugar-fat combinations and all highly processed foods. Now they really come down on highly processed foods, bologna and hot dogs and the bacon and all that good stuff. Remember, so keep track of your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your hemoglobin once. Stay hydrated, but don't overwater. But don't wait to be thirsty. One of the things that happens as we age is that we lose our thirst. We lose some of our sense of thirst, and all of our lives we've had a glass of water or whatever. When we get thirsty, well, what happens when we don't get thirsty? We get dehydrated. We end up in the hospital. We end up with a urinary tract infection, et cetera, et cetera. So, stay hydrated. One of the things that you'll also find is that when you are dehydrated, you will find that you get confused, and you may get sleepy, and you just sort of, oh, I just can't wait to take a nap. Well, before you take the nap, take a nice glass of water and see what happens. Okay? It may perk you right up. Exercise daily, and as I said, it's the strongest behavior associated with dementia prevention. Use chair exercises if your joints hurt, but dance. Think about dancing. Okay? There's a dance every Thursday afternoon at the American Legion headquarters or gathering place on Shelbyville Road. My husband Ron plays trombone in that. It's from 1:30 to 3:30. And it's a donation, it's basically free. And people dance. And one of the neat things about dancing, three neat things about dancing. One is that it's accompanied by music. And music has been, more than lately, found to be helpful for brain health. Okay? And they've done lots of work with people with Alzheimer's and the use of music, and it's just amazing. So you've got the music, but you also, if you dance, you have to know steps, okay? And you have to remember the steps that you take, okay? Especially line dancing, okay? And so it's really, really good exercise. It's social. You can even be a priest and do it. If you've never danced in your lives or before getting ordained or whatever, come and dance. And it's every week. Thursday. Thursday from 1:30 to 3:30. So, but there's the Norton's brain health group, along with Bellarmine. Okay, Bellarmine has a physical therapy department, and one of the women, I can't remember her name, do you remember her name in the therapy? Nancy Erkscheid teaches dance to people with Parkinson's. And it's just, it's just amazing.
Did you say that was American Legion or the VIA?
The American Legion. Mm-hmm. Yep. Prioritize sleep. 7 to 9 hours. And do any of you have Fitbits? Any kind of device that records your sleep? 20%, you ought to shoot for 20% of REM sleep, which is the dreaming sleep, and 20% of deep. It's necessary for both memory management and useful forgetting. We don't want to remember everything. What a burden that would be. And people who have had the experience of not forgetting anything really do find it a burden. So, the deep sleep, one of the things that they've recently found out in the past 10 years is that when we go into a deep sleep, the spaces between lobes of our brain widen, and the cerebrospinal fluid flows up into our brain and basically flushes out all of the dead cells, all of the refuse, all of the products of metabolism and so forth, out of the brain. Okay? So it's a brain cleansing function. And every living thing sleeps. If you've noticed on the wires, the telephone pole wires, you'll see all these birds, lined up. The birds on either side of this large group of birds, the birds in the middle are getting their sleep. The birds on either side are keeping one eye awake and the other eye closed, so they're getting sort of semi-sleep, but they're actually guarding those other birds in the middle so they can sleep. Fish sleep. Everything that has a brain needs to be able to sleep. So this whole, sleep is just absolutely fascinating. And so you need to prioritize it. And one of the things I'm sure you've heard, do not use your phone or blue lights, and blue light is in your computer and so forth, shortly before going to bed. If you have a Kindle, put the light onto warm light instead of blue light. Am I running out of time?
We're almost there.
Okay, let me quickly. Okay, bottom line is sleep. Alcohol we talked about. The other thing is this one. Use sensory aids. The minute somebody says to you that they don't think that you're hearing well, hoof it down to Heiser or somewhere and get your hearing tested, because so often we don't recognize it within ourselves that we need a hearing assessment. So there is a correlation between hearing loss, meaning that the cells in our ears are dying off, and part of in the section of our brain that is involved in hearing is it also involved in memory. So there's a correlation between hearing loss and dementia. Seriously, hearing loss and dementia. So it would be even wise to go to a hearing place and get a baseline as to how your hearing is, so that you can track that across time. So eyeglasses, the same thing. On that next page, I said do not use medications with Benadryl, sleep aids and cold medicines, antihistamines, and any of those anticholinergic medications. So that does interfere with brain function. Learn a new skill, especially a new language or a musical instrument. Socialize. Don't be afraid to use memory aids, calendars, appointment books, or reminders on the phone. Now, what you want to do is make sure you limit your appointment books to 2. I even have problems with 2. I have my little appointment book that I keep in my purse, and I have the one that we keep on the kitchen table for both of us. And sometimes I don't correlate them well. So, reduce stress, meditate daily, and some people are anxious about meditating and feel that there's a perfect way to meditate. No, just sit down and relax. And if you want to do it in a spiritual sense, just think about you're having time sitting on a couch with God. And if you have what they call distractions, they're not. The brain is always going to be functioning in some way. So don't judge the quality of your meditation at all. Just sit and let your brain scamper. Listen to music. And here's one that's my favorite. Rock in a rocking chair, with or without music. I wanted to do some research. I retired before I could get my rocking chair research done. But just as babies need to be rocked for their brains and their neurological systems to develop, they need to be rocked. Why do we not need to be rocked all the rest of our lives? And I wanted to put rocking chairs into nursing homes and then in dementia units, but I never got around to doing that. But I do think that the rocking is actually, and it's almost innate. I mean, we're attracted to gliders. When we were children, we were attracted to swings. What is it about us that needs to have this kind of movement? Avoid falls to prevent head injuries and broken bones. No ladders, scatter rugs. How many of you have pets? Okay, you need to be careful. that your pets don't get under your feet and cause you to fall. Or you're out walking your dog and along comes a squirrel and all of a sudden you're on the floor, laying on the ground. So it happened to a friend of mine. Wear a helmet if cycling. We have one person here who regularly cycles downtown from his Sacred Heart home, Nazareth Clifton home, and is still, you wear a helmet, don't you? Yeah. So, bicycling is excellent. Laugh as much as you can. Look for the humor in everything. It helps reduce stress. Find or create a reason to live with purpose. Why are you here? Why are you here? And I've always, thought, this part of this century, okay, up until about 2050, okay, we're going to have more people 65 and older than have ever been on this planet, ever. Okay? So why are we here? There must be a purpose for us. So each one of us needs to find out what that purpose is. And it may be just making somebody laugh or smile. I went into the post office the other day and this man held the door for me and was, very nice and holding this door, and I said, thank you. You've done your good deed for the day. You don't need to do anything else. And he just laughed. We can interject humor into everything, especially now. We need to do that. And finally, read novels. How many of you enjoy novels? One of the reasons why I say read novels is that when you're reading nonfiction, okay, there's no, you read the facts. There's no need necessarily to go back and review. But if you're reading a novel, you have to remember who the characters are, what their names are, what they're doing. And you may not pick up the novel for a couple of days. Do you remember what happened in the previous chapter? You need to remember that. So novels are actually more like real life memory. And some people say, I don't want to waste my time on fiction. Think of it as a brain exercise. And are there any questions? I'm not going to get to the memory improvement techniques, but I guess the one thing that I would say is do not try to multitask. Mainly pay attention. Pay attention. And that's actually, the psychologists call it mindfulness. But basically pay attention to where you put stuff, to what you've done, and so forth, rather than be distracted. When you're in your car, do not put the radio on. Do not put the radio on. I know you're frowning, I can tell. Because when we're driving, we need all of our mind on what's going on outside the car. Any kind of interesting music or interesting program is going to distract us, and we're not going to be able to pay attention. How often, I should put it this way, and I'll end with this. Have any of you been driving and you had somebody in the car and you were having a great conversation? Or you were listening to NPR or whatever, and you were singing along, paying attention to what was going on the radio, and you missed the exit. How many of you have ever done that? Okay? You can't do two things at once, but particularly with driving. Because at a later age, if we run into an accident, they're going to say, oh, that old person, caused that accident, whether it was our fault or not. But anyway, that's a nasty thing to say. I don't need to say that. So, if you're having trouble or difficulty remembering, stop, take a deep breath. Let's do it now. Deep breath. Hold it, 2, 3, and let it out through your mouth slowly. Do that 3 times. Take a deep breath. Hold it. 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Breathe deeply. And out. Okay. Do we have time for any questions?
We don't.
Okay. I'll be hanging around, so if you have any questions, I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
And Ann will be here, and we have the Rock Steady Boxing, the Parkinson's Boxing information here, if you're wanting to, I don't